Hello, everyone. Welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative, highlighting engineering and technology virtual college fair. Thank you for joining us today. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your cameras and microphones are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. And this is just one of many different sessions happening. Be sure to sign up for additional ones if you haven't done so already at the same place you signed up for this one. This presentation being recorded, it'll be available within about a week at strivescan.com/CACHET. I've gotten the housekeeping stuff out of the way, so I'll step out of the way. I'd like to turn it over now to our presenters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this student panel where you're going to get a sense of what students maybe wanted to know before they even applied to an engineering school. I'm Emily Roper-Doughton. I'm the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid at the Olin College of Engineering, and I'll be one of your moderators. Jonathan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Hoster. I am the undergraduate recruitment specialist at Syracuse University's College of Engineering and Computer Science, and be moderating today with Emily. And we're excited that you're all here. We have a great panel of students to talk to you today.
So we're going to let our student panelists introduce themselves. And so if we pop over to that next slide, you'll see their names. So Alex, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Alex Metcalf. I'm from Syracuse University. I'm graduating class of 2022, and I'm studying aerospace engineering.
Hello, everybody. I'm Camila Carvalho, pronoun she, her, hers. I study biomedical engineering at WPI, or Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And I'm in my third year. I'm a junior.
Hi, everyone. I'm Moises Abilo Garcia. I'm a freshman at Olin College of Engineering, studying mechanical engineering, and I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simon O'Shea. I am a sophomore at Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston. I'm majoring in computer science, and I have a minor in general business management. I'm an admissions ambassador at WIT, and I'm also an orientation leader, and I go by he, him, his.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana Lin. I am a junior at Union College. I am majoring in biology, minoring in chemistry and political science.
All right. Thank you all so much. I think what I'll do is take the slides down since we have everybody's introduction. We have some questions that we've prepared in advance that we'll get to and we'll send out to our panelists. But we're really excited to hear what questions are on your mind. So you can use that Q&A function on your screen, and we'll be excited to share your questions and get our panelists' perspectives on those. But to start with, we wanted to ask our panelists, how did you know you wanted to study a STEM field, or what led you to pursue a STEM major? So who would like to get us started with that? Simon, sure.
Yeah, I can go first. For me, computer science was honestly just pretty much a natural fit. I was growing up and I loved video games, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate with that. And in 8th grade, I kind of got into computer building. So from a younger age, I was kind of fascinated with technology. And after doing some searching, I felt as though computer science was a really good fit for my interests. And it just kind of fell into my lap like that. So
perfect.
I can say, I can say for myself, I've always really been into automotive. From a young age, I was like fascinated by when I would see vehicles like the Toyota Prius. I was like, how does that even work? And I told myself, hey, I want to work in automotive someday. I want to be the person with their name behind that car. And the natural step for that was to go into STEM.
Yeah, I would just add, similar to the others, growing up, I definitely was kind of a problem solver. In middle school, I was able to participate in the STEM program, and I realized that I was really into STEM. And then when I got to high school, I realized that research and solving problems in that way was something that I was interested in. And so naturally, when I took some of those biology and chemistry classes in college, I realized that's definitely what I love. So similar to the others, kind of fell into my lap, but again, just problem solving aspect of science.
Do we want to run through? Yeah. Do we want to run through all of us? Or
sure. I think
it's a good one for everybody. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so similar to the others, I kind of knew growing up that I was going to be some sort of engineer. But it wasn't until I was involved with Honeywell Space Camp in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, which is also known as the hallway of the rockets, that I really kind of fell in love with aerospace.
For me, I always knew growing up that I wanted to help people around me. I just didn't know how. And I always had a passion for like just the medical field in general, but I also was really good at like math and science and technology in high school. So I kind of combined the two and decided to pursue biomedical engineering.
Awesome, thank you. So one of the things that high school students are often thinking about when they're having their I like problem solving, what do I want to do in college? They're thinking a lot about how do you apply the knowledge that you learn in the classroom to things like research and co-ops and internships. And so I'd love for you to tell us about the opportunities you've had as an undergraduate student. And I'm going to start with Alex because he's my undergraduate research plant, I think. But I'm definitely going to be looking to the rest of you in a second for these opportunities.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to have a good relationship with my freshman aerospace professor, Professor Dannenhofer. And the summer after my freshman year, I was able to go out into Dayton, Ohio, at Dayton Air Force Base, and really kind of use the knowledge that I had learned really early on, to try to contribute to a bigger goal than just learning in school and that kind of thing. So that was a really good experience. And that was primarily computer programming, but it was application to kind of like computational fluid dynamics and that kind of stuff. It was developing a computer program that could harness those tools.
And how hard was it? Easy to get that experience? Did you have to sort of shake down some faculty for that undergraduate experience?
Yeah, so definitely when you come in as a freshman, especially, you're looking for experiences. Be great at whatever you decide to do, and that'll kind of draw the attention. And then also just have those relationships. Faculty have office hours. Sometimes they're underused. If you get in there early and make those relationships early, that'll make it easier when you're looking for jobs, internships, and even letters of recommendation. I don't know how many letters of recommendation I've asked for from Jonathan, for example, at this point, because of the relationships that are there.
That's awesome. Tatiana, I know you had something to contribute here too.
Yeah, so just talking about research a little bit, my college doesn't have any graduate students. So all of the professors and the research that they're doing, they're looking for undergraduate students. So for me, it was just sending some emails, maybe a couple emails, and just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm interested in research. A lot of the times, professors, you will be joining a professor's lab. And so depending on what they're interested in, they'll have you read different articles and things like that and just catch up on what they're investigating. I'm specifically investigating how a cholesterol binding domain can impact FSH receptor structure and function. So definitely able to tie in that public health and talking about reproductive health and things like that into my research. So if you're interested in any interdisciplinary stuff, you can definitely find that at probably whatever college you end up going to.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody have a cool internship lined up for this summer already? Simon? I saw a little wave there.
Well, actually, funny story. I had a phone screening interview at noon today. So that was pretty cool. I just want to go back to what Alex said. I like how he said, be great at whatever you pick to do. That definitely would help. Definitely makes me feel a little scared. I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of intellectuals here. And one of my greater tips that I would like to say is being great is a great thing to do, right? To get into what you want to do. But seriously, making those connections with your professors as a freshman, and talking to your advisors. And like you said, office hours are severely underused in my experience. And even just sending emails to your professor to get those connections can really help you. As far as research at Wentworth, I'm not doing anything like that. It's more I'm looking for internships and co-ops. So Wentworth actually has a department for co-ops and careers. There's a professional development course that you actually have to take. So I did that last semester. And so I've been on the search now for a summer co-op, and I went to a couple intern fairs and really was just trying to social network. And I got an email back last week, and I had my interview today. And so hopefully I'll hear back by Friday, and we'll get the verdict. And fingers crossed. So yeah.
I will say also as a freshman, as a current freshman who has noticed a lot of the things that my peers here have said, I am the type of person who goes to office hours just to talk to professors. Much like Union, Olin doesn't have any graduate students, so research opportunities are all for undergrads. And I am currently doing research right now during the semester. It was as simple as just reaching out to the professor. I was really intrigued in his project. He's monitoring air quality near the Boston Logan Airport, and I'm helping create some enclosures for some very expensive instrumentation that is monitoring that air quality. And literally it was as simple as like, hey, I love your project, can I join your team? And that has led to a summer opportunity that I am currently pursuing. So yeah.
Can I just add to that really quickly? I promise I'll be quick. Everybody's talking about like networking and talking to professors, and that's great. That's like exactly what I need to do. That's how I got my research opportunity on campus. But something else that I recommend is just like reaching out also to your classmates and peers who have like done the job before or have had an internship at a company or something else that you're interested in. That's how I got my summer program this year. So I knew a person that did the same program last year, and when I was applying, I asked for her help, like recommendations on what to write on my application or people that I could reach out to. So not only your professors, your peers and classmates are also a great resource when you're applying for jobs as well.
Super. Thank you so much, everybody. The next topic we wanted to move to is study abroad. I think there's a bit of a myth that you can't study abroad if you're a STEM major, but there's many STEM majors at many colleges and universities who are having great study abroad experiences every year. I know, Camila, you are studying abroad by being in Massachusetts. So you want to talk about that? I think that's a nice experience to kick off this part of the discussion.
Yes, so I'm an international student. I'm originally from São Paulo, Brazil. So just by being in a college in the US, I am studying abroad. And just from my personal experience, it's just amazing. The infrastructure is way better for STEM here than it's back in Brazil. So I'm just having way more opportunities just by being in college here. But I also want to talk about like, no, you're not like, say you're not an international student, but you also want to study abroad. That's also possible. At WPI, for example, studying abroad is part of our curriculum. So actually students get a $5,000 scholarship just to study abroad for a term. We don't have semesters, we have terms. They're 7 weeks long. We have 4 of them. It's a little bit weird, but you can study abroad for a term or just a semester, and that's possible. I was supposed to go to do a project in Cape Town, South Africa, but because of COVID, I wasn't supposed to. But I have a bunch of friends, if not all of my friends, who have studied somewhere either outside of the US, in the US, or even like in Boston, for example. And it's part of our curriculum because WPI really wants people to be able to apply all of our engineering skills into like different projects related to like social sciences or humanities. So you can be like a very well-rounded engineer. And it is totally possible. I was supposed to do it. I was very sad that I wasn't like able to because of COVID, but it's an amazing opportunity to not only apply your engineering skills to like a very real world project, but also to just like meet a different culture and like get to experience that.
I feel like part of our job today is to debunk the myths of STEM. And I'm just going to say that when we say STEM, we're often referring to science, technology, engineering, and math. For anybody out there, you know that because you're here. But one of the sort of myths of STEM can be, if you're going to study something in STEM, you're going to be so focused that all you're going to do is math, science, technology, right? Like you're not going to have time for these other things. And so one of the things we want to make sure that you, as a high school student thinking about this, that you know you don't have to shed some of those other things that you love. And so we want to talk a little bit now about, can you pursue an interdisciplinary program and major in STEM? Can you do a minor? Can you do a double major? So I know Simon and Tatiana have some things to share on this. So Simon, let's start with you and then we'll go over to Tatiana next.
All right, yeah, so like I said earlier, I'm actually a computer science major, but at WIT you are allowed to take different minors kind of outside of your computer science department. And I figured that I really kind of wanted to cover as much ground as I could to have a good foundation for a career. So I decided to declare a minor in general business management. So I'm about like halfway through that right now with my credits. So far, I've taken a financial accounting course and a marketing course. So that was a really great opportunity. Both of them were remote and asynchronous, but they gave me the opportunity to delve into a different topic and just a completely different industry, honestly. And I do feel like it's actually given me a broader perspective on not only just kind of the world around me, seeing things like a marketer might, but with computer science too, and trying to think about how I can apply those skills to my career and kind of leverage that minor to hopefully advance my career in the future. So I also plan on declaring a second minor in computer networking next year. That's not really interdisciplinary, but you are allowed to, depending on on the actual major that you have, some are a little bit heavier than others, but you do have enough time to do other things in your life. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, so as I said, I am majoring in biology and minoring in chemistry and political science. I've changed my major about like 4 times now. Definitely needed to find a balance there. And during my first year, I realized that if I'm only taking STEM classes, that's not really the best balance for me. And so adding that political science, taking some more humanities, anthropology, religion classes was really helpful for me. And at the end of the day, I'm a biology major still, but you can still really, again, find that balance, try some new things. You never know if you want to add a minor or even like a double major there. And yeah, that's what I would add. It's really easy to get involved in interdisciplinary studies. I would highly, highly recommend it. It helps me get out of my STEM bubble sometimes. So
making those connections can be super helpful and reinforce things that you're learning in your major itself, or draw connections between them that make you just think about something differently, which is very cool.
All right. The next thing we wanted to talk about is the diversity on our various campuses. And many of our schools have a number of clubs related to STEM in terms of particular organizations for affinity groups for students of color in STEM, affinity groups for women in STEM. So I was wondering if any of you could talk about how would you describe or how would you discuss the diversity on your particular campus?
Yeah. So Olin's a really small campus to start with. We only have around 380 students, and that's about 86 per graduating class. And even amongst this already small community, there are even smaller communities. And I identify myself as Latino, and there are affinity groups for that. And I'm part of one that I really love. It's called The Mix, which is the Multicultural Innovators Experience. It's basically where people of all different cultures come together. We prepare for conferences such as SHIP, which is Society of Hispanic Professionals and Engineers, NSBE, which is National Society of Black Engineers, SWE, Society of Women Engineers, and many others. And it's a place where we can come together, we can be ourselves, we can learn about other people. And you wouldn't really expect something like that from such a small campus, but having those sorts of spaces is definitely something that I was looking for when I was applying to schools, and it's something that was necessary.
yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think that having those clubs on campus is really important. And I would also emphasize that, and I'm sure at Union and a lot of the other schools, it's really easy to make your own club as well. Recently, I made a new organization on campus called Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students. And so even though that's more pre-medical based, establishing that chapter on Union kind of created another family, I guess, or community on campus. And even though it is pre-med, obviously a lot of our students are majoring in things like engineering, biology, chemistry. And so just being able to have those conversations about getting involved in research and things like that. Again, really easy to make that kind of organization on campus if it doesn't already exist at the schools you were applying to.
That's awesome. Thank you both for sharing. I'm going to connect a little bit to one of the questions that popped in the Q&A, but we'll get to the full question on that in a little bit. But one of the things, it starts out, something you often hear is that STEM majors are constantly swamped with work. But what I want to connect that to a question that we had sent you in advance, which was, can you talk a little bit about transitioning between your high school coursework and to STEM? And I think part of the reason why we wanted to ask this question about transitioning from that high school experience is because of this myth that like, oh, it's so hard, right? And so I'd love, I don't know if anybody wants to jump in first. I might go over to Moises because he's the most recent, to have made this transition, but the rest of you get ready.
Yeah, I love this question because I feel like this is one where I can really talk about Owen. And basically, my high school was really large, and we really focused on getting good grades for for your exams. Like it was very exam heavy, and Olin is very much about like learning and the process of learning. So it's like when I was going from STEM courses in high school to STEM college courses, I also had that fear. Where it's like, oh, I'm I'm not gonna make this. Like this is going to be the end of me. Um, but in reality, at least here at Olin, because there's not that much of a focus on, hey, you have to like get a 100% on this exam because we don't really have exams. Everything is mostly project-based learning. That transition was a lot easier. The first semester was also pass no record, and that's how it is every year. So it's a lot less of a burden. You can really get used to how they teach here on campus. Um, you can get close to your professors, close to your peers, and it really gets you ready for the next semesters. And I could say that because now in my second semester, I'm having a ball. So yeah.
Who else wants to weigh in on this one? Camila.
Yes, so at WPI, as I mentioned previously, we don't have semesters, we have terms. So they're 7 weeks long and we only have 3 classes a term. So it was a really good transition coming from high school to college just because we only needed to focus on 3 courses at a time. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be hard at first just because STEM is not an easy major. Like we can't sit here and be like, no, it was awesome. It was a perfect transition, but it's all about organizing yourself and it's all about balance. So I'm that kind of person that I really like to get involved outside of class. And my freshman year, especially, I was like, I want to get involved in everything. But you also need to know that like academics come first. And even though you need to organize yourself and see like, okay, I really want to get involved with this because I'm truly passionate about this and because I have time. And at WPI, it's really cool because we have like a solid letter grading policy. So we have A, B, C, and NR. So you're never going to fail a class. So it offers that flexibility to students that like, okay, it's okay to fail because it's not going to go on my transcripts and sort of thing. So it's better that way. It's a great turn. It was like an easier transition from high school to college that way. And again, it's all about balance. I know freshman year, oh my God, I want to get involved in everything. Everything's perfect, but just like breathe for a second, make sure you have time for everything that you're getting involved with.
I hope you're hearing that colleges want you to succeed and also time management is important.
Yeah, I guess I can definitely piggyback off of that. I would say organization is key. So for my transition, I guess I was expecting like the worst of the worst. And I guess usually that's probably a good mindset to have because it'll likely be easier than you expected, right? So high expectations, low reality. But it wasn't as much of a shock. I would say more of the shock kind of comes from the cultural differences, like knowing that you are in charge of yourself now and that you have to get up and go to class, you got to feed yourself, you have to do all of these other things that really involve adulthood, and being able to manage your time effectively so that you can have extra time to get involved on campus while still passing all of your grades and stuff like that. I love hearing about all these no record things at Wentworth. You can fail, so be careful. Not every school is going to be like that, so you have to make sure that you're on top of your stuff. But all of the professors are there to help you succeed, and actually they want you to pass. It doesn't feel good as a professor, I'm sure, to have a bunch of your students failing your course. So kind of like how I said earlier, talking to professors and doing office hours, I would say every school has a plethora of resources there to support you. And I would highly recommend that you take the time to actually search them out or seek them out and see what's available to support you, because regardless of how hard it is, if it is a wave of just overwhelming emotion and it's too difficult to handle, there is absolutely someone at the school that you can at least talk to, or you'll find peers that you can relate to. And everybody's kind of in the same boat too. So don't forget that you're surrounded by people that are experiencing the same thing that you are.
Yeah, and if I could just add really quick, I would say that I was almost the opposite of a lot of the students here. When I first came in, I was like, I am only going to focus on academics. Like, I'm pre-med, like, got to keep tunnel vision. And then I realized that if I only focus on academics to a certain extent, I'm missing a whole different world of college. Because obviously, college is about academics and doing well, but it's also about you learning social skills, communication skills, building those friendships and connections. So I would definitely emphasize everything that everyone has already said. Definitely try to get involved. You know, it can be a little bit scary, especially if you're going to school that no one else from your high school has gone to, but it will be worth it in the end, I promise.
All right, thanks everybody. The next thing I wanted to talk about is STEM projects. So I'm wondering if some of the students on the panel could shout out a particular project from a class or maybe even from research that has been a highlight of your experience. So Camila, sure.
Oh my God, where do I start? At WPI, we have a project-based curriculum. So like every single class, I've done a project, like every single one of them. I know it's not the same for like every college, but the most recent one, I've had a biomedical engineering design class recently. And me and two other people, we designed the syringe attachment that goes with rheumatoid arthritis syringes for injections. And we designed that in 5 weeks, basically, because like we have 7 weeks a term and the first 2 weeks are kind of like researching and background research. So it was just like amazing, the feeling of like, I did this, I was able to do it. And like in a very short period of time. And I just like that class particularly because we were able to go through the whole engineering design process. It's not only like, okay, I have the design, I'm gonna do it. No, there are like many things that go into designing a new product. So that particularly like stood out to me of like all the projects that I've done at my college.
I can add to that projects as well. We just got back our design projects for aerospace structures today, so I'll talk about that. That was the most recent. So that course, like for the most recent project that we just did, you know, you're taking a look at some of the geometry that's actually in some, you know, like aerospace structures. I think we picked like a lunar lander or something like that for the first project. Taking a look in the geometry and saying, okay, if the force loading is this, you know, because of the thrusters or whatnot, what does our cross section need to look like so we're not going to buckle, so then we're not going to yield, you know, the material is not going to fold in half and everything's going to stay together. All right. And that takes a look at, you know, some handouts like graphs and reading plots, and also, you know, taking some coding in Excel and whatnot, and really kind of using all that data to find a geometry that works for all conditions. And that was a really cool project because, you know, I did pour a lot of time into it, and to have it kind of come out as like, I think Camila touched on this, is something that you have done, is something you can really be proud of. So I think projects are very a really cool thing to get to experience.
Yeah, like Camila, I had a project last semester in my first semester design course, where you had to basically take some bio inspiration and create a play experience for fourth graders. And because of COVID, like this had to be some sort of like a tabletop game or something that you can play inside your house. So over the course of 6 weeks, we followed the design process. You have to consider design for manufacturing, all these different factors. And we created, at least my team recreated this game where students, they race against the clock to try to match patterns. Basically, there's this, I don't know, it's called the cuttlefish. It's this fish that can camouflage. You basically take patterns that the cuttlefish can make, and you mix them on this like light board, and you try to match the same pattern as the cuttlefish, and the fastest through that wins. And it was this like struggle against like, you know, how much will this cost to make, and then how do I get this to them during COVID? And it was like there were so many things to consider, and in the moment I hated it, but then looking back, it was such a great project because I actually had to do a technical interview where I had to talk about my favorite project, and this was it. And when I presented in front of 3 senior engineers, they were like, "You did this in your first semester?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "That's next level." So yeah, that's my favorite one.
All right, so I'm going to connect one of our first questions from the audience with a question that we sent to you in advance with something that Tatiana just said in the last question. So we want to know, what do you do for fun, right? I mentioned before we had this question that was kind of like, STEM is hard and you're working all the time. Do you actually, so the question from the audience was kind of like, do you have time for fun? What do you do? So like, what do you do outside of class? What clubs and organizations? How do you spend your time when you're not in the lab or working on a project? What are the things that you're doing? And I know that the projects are fun and I know that homework is fun, but what are some of the kind of non-class related things that you do for fun? Who wants to jump in first?
So I love being outside and staying active. So I like to go for runs. I like to play tennis when the weather's nice. I play spike ball with my friends. I live in a house with all guys, but they're really like artistic and like musical and everything like that. So sometimes I'll come downstairs. They own like 4 guitars. So as of now, I'm learning how to play the guitar. I love to like grow plants, meditate, all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely fun stuff to do on campus. Definitely like getting involved in clubs. As I mentioned, I'm the president of our Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students, even though I'm pre-med. So helping like patients and things like that, that's fun to me. So getting off campus and volunteering in the community, things like that are fun. So definitely it is a balance, but we don't just study all the time, I promise.
Go ahead, Simon.
All right, yeah. So I am a part of a couple of clubs, like, so you can definitely find some like academic related things that are a little bit more enjoyable than your normal classes. So like at my school, there's the Computer Science Society where we do kind of like baby projects on things that you won't necessarily see in the normal curriculum that are kind of more fun oriented. So there's plenty of actual events that are put on by the school or by other peers that you can involve yourself with on campus. Wentworth is located right in the heart of Boston, and something I really like to do, similar to Tatiana, I like to be outside when the weather is good. So I like to skateboard. In the city, it's just a blast to be able, like, even in between classes, it's kind of therapeutic. It clears your mind to just go out, roll around for a couple minutes, go around the block and come back, or go to the park and actually spend some time with some buddies. A lot of my time spent that was like just recreational was just with my peers, kind of decompressing. So there were activities like I would go back to my room and play some video games or whatever, just kind of watch some Netflix, spend time with people I enjoy, or just be alone sometimes too. So that's like on campus, you're going to be around a lot of people all the time. So it's fun to kind of find a place where you can just be alone and be like, this is nice, it's quiet. Yeah, so it's pretty much, you can find a lot of time if you manage your time properly to do whatever you want. People always have their different interests, but I guarantee you that even if in the first semester it's a whirlwind, you'll get a hang of things and you'll be able to do what you enjoy. So don't worry about that.
Just to like talk a little bit more about that, I think Tatiana mentioned that like getting involved outside of academics is something so rewarding, and it gets you out of like the STEM bubble that you're in all the time. So I promised myself, I was like, I'm gonna get involved with things that I'm truly passionate about outside of STEM, outside of engineering. So like some of the clubs that I'm involved with the Brazilian club on campus. It's called Brazilian Student Association, and they have like a national chapter and like local chapters as well. And it's just for like international Brazilian students being able to share their culture on their campuses. And it's just amazing how much people get interested about learning about Brazil. We're learning like about all the amazing food, particularly, I might add, that we can do. And we can cook from like Brazilian culture and stuff like that. So I found a way through the Brazilian club to be involved with like my community and also just like being attached to home kind of. And I'm also involved with Greek life on campus. So I'm part of the Pan-Hellenic Council, which is like the organization that oversees all of the sororities on campus. And it's something that I never thought I was get involved with. Like everything I knew about Greek life was from like movies and stuff. So they not always have the most positive image, but it like at WPI, I've been able to get to know so many people, do some networking, and most importantly, do a lot of community service, which was something I'm very passionate about. And I wanted to continue when I came to college. So yeah.
And I'll just follow that up. One of the big clubs that I've joined since freshman year and has really been integral to my experience is the running club on campus. It actually right now is my house is filled with runners. That's who I'm living with. And that's kind of the same as Tatiana and Camila said, is getting you out of that STEM bubble that kind of forms. And what if you don't really know what that means is like, as you kind of go farther and farther into your major, you might start to see the same 20 or 30 faces in all of your classes. So to get out of that, the running club has really been different because obviously there is no major requirements. You're going to be seeing people from all over campus. And for me, Syracuse University is, the College of Engineering is a small college within a larger university. There's a ton of people that aren't in the College of Engineering that, are really interesting and doing interesting work and that kind of stuff. And getting to meet them in an outside of academic experience is really a really cool thing to see. And I did get a little message about varsity sports. I'm not in a varsity sport. However, the running club, you can take it as seriously as you want or as not as seriously as you want. But how, I don't know if we have anybody who's doing varsity sports in this call, but, obviously that's a little bit extra level of commitment if you are coming in and want to do engineering plus a varsity sport.
Thanks, everybody. We've gotten a couple questions from the high school students in the audience about workload and like balancing your schedule, like what should they expect in college? So what advice would you have about that in terms of if anybody wants to take us through like a day in your life, and what your day looks like in terms of how you balance it between your coursework and studying and other things you want to do? Simon, sure.
Yeah, so it might sound like a broken record right now, but time management is absolutely key. A lot of people work differently. For instance, one of my good buddies likes to play games in the morning and do school at night. I could never do that. That sounds horrible to me. So for me, I try, especially when I was on campus, it's a little bit more difficult when you're remote, especially because my house is tiny and I don't have a lot of separation between space for work and space for recreation. But when you're on campus, you'll have plenty of opportunities in between your courses to go to the library or sit in the cafe. And if you're kind of proactive with your time and you spend even just like 10 or 15 minutes chipping away at a project, you will be amazed at how easy it makes your life like a week down the line when the deadline is sneaking up on you. This is probably going to sound kind of crazy and against like everything you've heard about STEM majors, but I kind of have a rule where if it's like past 8 o'clock at night, I'm done for the day. And so like a lot of people sometimes are like, how do you even manage that? I tell myself that I'm done. And then if I did not complete what I wanted to complete, then I have to do it tomorrow. And so that's kind of like, you play that game with yourself where you have to be very honest with yourself, right? Like you need to make sure that you're going to do it. So it can be dangerous sometimes. But really knowing when you have the free time to slip in even just a little bit of work will seriously make the rest of your day just open up, and you will have a lot more time later on in the evening. So be aware of when you have time slots that you can just get a little bit of work done, and it will seriously help you down the line.
I'll say like I'm definitely not the most organized person. Like I am not the type of person to have like a daily planner full of everything that I'll do and check off lists. I can never be that type of person. But I will say, much like Simon said, time management is the saving grace. And it's something that I really experimented with coming into college. Like set up a Google Calendar or an Outlook and like make sure you have it as organized or as specific as you want. I know a lot of people who will put like they'll connect it to their alarm. So it'll be like 8 a.m., wake me up, like go get breakfast, go work out, go to class, right? And some people are just very strict on it. I'm one of those people. I keep it on and it guides me throughout my day. And it also lets me know, like Simon said, when my free time is, when I can go and play 2 hours of Frisbee outside, or when I have to stay in and lock myself out of my phone so I can get stuff done. And I would highly recommend that you start playing out your days on the calendar. Very necessary.
That's awesome. We've got some questions from the audience about what is it like to be a woman in STEM? So we know from, popular media that while we may try as we might, to increase the numbers of women in STEM, that it's not, that we're still working on it in a lot of different places. So I was wondering if Camila or Tatiana, if you had any advice for folks who are out there who are thinking about, how do I think about that in terms of potentially being one of fewer, even while we're trying to increase those numbers?
Yeah, sorry, I can kind of start. So obviously I'm a woman, I'm also a person of color. And so that experience has definitely been new to me coming to college. I went to an all-girls high school, and so they really taught us to be like independent, like speak your mind. And so coming to college, having that background was really helpful. And so I would just say, just in general, continue to be an advocate for yourself, and regardless of whatever you do. I think that a lot of times people do have this like kind of stigma of like there's not a lot of women in STEM, but honestly, like in some of my classes, I can definitely see that changing. My freshman year, I definitely felt in a physics class that I was like one of the only women. But as you start to get into like upper level and like larger classes and things like that, definitely I would say speak your mind, advocate. If you have a question, ask it, because chances are the guys are also wondering the same thing. So definitely I would continue to speak your mind. Clubs, specifically, I think it's SWE for engineers. Clubs like that are really, really helpful. Like I said, if you want to create a new community on campus, definitely do that. But yeah, I'd say advocate for yourself. It's not as scary as it seems. A lot of the guys honestly need your help too, so.
I think for the sake of time, I think Tatiana touched on everything and talked about everything. So yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was muted. Okay, I'm not. So we thought a great way to wrap up everybody is to wrap up the session, is to have the panelists talk about why they picked their college. So we'll go around the group, and if everybody could do that in maybe 45 seconds or less, that would be great. So Moises?
Yeah, I think very simply, I chose Olin because I wasn't going to be a number here. I really wanted to be at a school where I could shine and where I could get really, really involved. And that is exactly where I'm at. It's a school that cares about me a lot, and I care about it so much more. Yeah.
Okay, Tatiana.
I definitely wanted a good community and support system, and I've definitely found that at Union. I liked all the research opportunities. Having no graduate students is a really big plus. And yeah, I would say I love it. Definitely the community.
Yeah, Moises kind of stole my thunder for Syracuse, but I'll still go with it. Is that, like go somewhere that you're going to feel like you're wanted, that you feel like you can kind of step into the light there and get things done that you want to get done. And what my aerospace professor always says at the end of his presentations, and I'll repeat it here, is go where you're going to fall in love.
I agree with everybody so far, but like for WPI specifically, for me, it was definitely the opportunity to go study abroad, and you get that scholarship to do that like during your 4 years in college. So that was like a big plus for me, and especially like the flexibility that you have as a student. As everybody say, like it just said, you're not just a number, you're an actual student, and people really want to hear your opinion at WPI. So that's why I like the college so much.
So coming from a really small rural town in Maine, I knew that I kind of wanted to get out into the bigger part of the world. So coming to an urban place like Boston was a really good spot for me. And Wentworth in particular has a lot of hands-on learning. So like we have the co-op program and stuff, and I'm required to take 2 semesters of an internship throughout my 4 years before I'm actually allowed to graduate. So I knew that they had a really strong computer science program, and I really liked the campus. So I'd highly recommend that if you get the chance to do open houses, check out all of your colleges, because actually seeing the campus is pretty crucial. You don't really know what it's going to be like until you're there. And pursue something that you think is going to make you happy, because in the end, that's really all that matters. So thank you.
That was amazing. Incredible round robin, my friends. Thank you all for sharing those perspectives. And that's time, right?
It's pretty close, so I think I have enough time to thank everyone for joining us and to share a few things, but mention that when you close this window, there'll be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, just a reminder, it's one of many sessions happening, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions where you sign up for this one. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at strivescan.com/CACHET. Once again, thank you to all of our panelists for joining us and sharing that great information this afternoon/evening. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Take care.